What is good, everybody out there? Thanks for kicking it with your boy at Court Thoughts, the channel where we basically talk basketball. I had the absolute pleasure today in talking with Coach Nick Garcia. Nick is actually a strength and conditioning and performance coach currently based out in London. And if you want to go through and check him out, go ahead and see his Instagram, which is Coach Nick Garcia. He also has a website where he offers a bunch of different services to try and help you get better physically, help you with your mentality, all that good stuff. All that stuff, if you're trying to push yourself to the next level, you need to go ahead and get at Coach Nick. His website, his social media is in the link below. But it was an absolute pleasure sitting with this man, and I can't wait. I can't wait for you guys to see it. All right, let's get into it. Is this thing on? Thank you so much for joining me, Nick. Really do appreciate it. Really do appreciate it. How you doing, man?
Very good. Very good. It's early hours here in London, so yeah, just waking up still. but we're getting there. We're getting there. Hopefully, after this, I'll be ready to go.
How many coffees deep are you?
I'm 2 coffees deep, 3 pastel de natas, and an almond croissant. So I'm fueled.
Almond croissants are superior. I don't care what anyone says, bro. Almond croissants are the superior croissant.
It's like a meal. It's almost like 300 calories. You can get big ones, 300 calorie fucking almond croissants, mate. That's massive.
No. I don't want to talk about no calories. Awesome. All right. So the whole idea behind the podcast is that we're literally just going to be talking about basketball and people's experience in basketball. I think that most people, when they get involved in the sport or any sport, right, they go with the intention of being a pro, and very, very few people reach that. You know, me and you included.
Yeah.
So when we
go
testament
to that. Yeah, definitely.
But we go through our own paths, right? And so I want to explore what that is, because I think that it's really good for people out there to understand what avenues that they have, and what resources there are out there for them to live a fulfilling life and a career that they want to have around the game that they love. So firstly, how did you get introduced to basketball?
So I guess at a young age, my dad used to play when he was younger, and so I used to grew up going to watch him play at Bankstown Bruins Stadium there, and then actually watching you and your dad play too. So yeah, so I think that was my first introduction to it when I was a kid.
Yeah, awesome. What is your favorite memory from playing the game? Do you have anything that sort of jumps out at you as like, oh man, yeah, that was a wicked moment?
Well, there was this one game. I had my auntie from Argentina. She was visiting Oz and visiting family and stuff. And my dad was driving me to the game, and he was like, your auntie's here, this is a one-off thing. And I had it in my head. I was like, I've got to turn up. Pump that Drake. Let's get it going. Let's go. Come on. So,
oh man.
So I think that was the best game I ever played for sure. In a under 14s rep game, dropped 31 points. I think I missed one basket the whole game. Yeah, I was on fire. And then at the end, my dad was like, that was great. You got to do that every week. And I was like, no, bro, I can't. That was it. That's the MJ flu game. That's it. It's done after that.
One and done, bro. You want to see these stats? Check me out on 2K. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Legit.
Oh man, who was one of your idols growing up playing the game? Who was one of the people that you looked up to the most?
Oh, do you know what's funny, right? Because I didn't follow it. I didn't go to every game, but when I used to go watch the Sydney Kings, I used to love seeing Shane Hill. I used to fucking love seeing that bloke. I just like that. I personally like players that show up on the court and you can see that they're determined, that they're hungry, and they're gonna change the game for you. They don't. He's not not gonna be the flashiest person, but the guy is he's there and he's gonna fucking win you a game. He's gonna carry that team. He's gonna fucking win you a game. So I just love Shane Hill.
Oh my god, Shane Hill's so underrated. I don't think many people even if you think about back in the day, right? There's not many Aussies that actually made it to the NBA. I'm pretty sure that he played with the Timberwolves, but he was a
Yeah,
buckhead.
I can't remember what NBA team. Yeah, but he's bucket. Yeah, and he's just like, he's got like Aussie grit. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he's just a fucking like he's just a hustler. I love that.
Just the
Um,
dude.
then in the NBA, like I used to like the I'm thinking of my bloody Hornsby Spiders team, but I used to like the Celtics, right?
Yeah.
And so I used to follow Kevin Garnett, Rajon Rondo, Paul Pierce. Like that was the three that I used to like. But I used to I used to love Ginobili, like Manu Ginobili, because he used to do this like the side step back shot, and
Yeah,
for
yeah.
hours I would go in the park and try and practice that shot. I'm like, wait, one day there's going to be a time in the game where I'm going to get to like do this little side step back shot. Never did it, but it was good. I
Bro,
used to love it.
I've been practicing that move for like 12 years, and I think I've used it 3 times.
Yeah.
I think when I think about that level of intensity, like 100%, man. Kevin Garnett, I really love him because of the fact that he was like, he would talk so much horrendous shit to your face that he was gonna break you before you even touch the ball. And I'm like, oh, that's my guy, bro.
I'm all for the mind games, mate. I love it.
Yeah,
I love the mind games.
yeah,
I love watching. Like I hate him
yeah,
because he's a little shit. But Draymond Green, he's
yeah,
fucking great. Like I'd love
yeah,
to have him on my team. I would love to
yeah,
have that bloke on my team because he's just going to bully everybody else in the other teams. Everyone gets all wound up so quickly. But
yeah.
that's what he does. He's just good like that.
Do you think that mental aspect of the game is underrated? Like, not that many people. I know for me, I don't think that it's heavily focused on by a lot of people. I think more people get broken by it, but besides having it.
Yeah, it's such a. I agree. I think like there's there's a difference between trash talking and a mind game. And I
Yeah,
think the trash talking, a lot of people think they can do that and that you're in someone's head. But I think like there's different levels. There's different levels. You can get on a
yeah,
court and chat a bit of shit, but what those guys do, like Draymond and KG, all of them, that is like you don't want to be playing that guy because he's gonna fucking say something. Like Kobe was like that as well. They're
yeah,
just gonna get in your head and they're gonna fuck with you.
yeah, yeah.
And there was things like when Kobe, what was that one where Kobe, was it he learned Japanese? No, what did he learn? Was it Chinese? I can't remember who it was against Yao or something like that, where he like learned how to speak that player's like native tongue and like was giving them insults in their native tongue. Like,
Oh,
how are you
he's
going to
done
get,
that tons of times. He's done that tons of
yeah,
times.
like that's not just trash talking. Like that guy's gone
Yeah.
and like, he's been on Google Translate, that bloke, and he's been like finding he's messing you up. He's come to fuck you up.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it was against the Spanish team in the World Cup, and he's like
That's right.
talking mad shit, and they're like, "Don't speak. You should speak English. It sounds better." He's like, "You're gonna understand me," and I was like, "Hey, yo,
Yeah,
that's my guy, bro." Oh, since playing as in your younger years, I think for me a lot of that stuff translates into your older and specifically in the way of things and lessons that you learn that are super powerful. Like one for me that I'll never ever forget. I think it was under 14s or under 16s. We were playing reps and we went the whole season undefeated and then went to the grand finals and got smoked by like 20 points. And that hurt, eh? I still wake up in a night terror thinking about that memory. But it taught me how valuable it is about to be prepared and to not to think anything sort of comes at you just because you've done it once before. You got to do it again and again and again. Is there any lessons that you've learned like that?
yeah. I think that's a massive one. Yeah, I think that's a massive one. And I mean, probably not everybody gets to be in that position where you were in, where you have like those where everything's just going great, and then all of a sudden, it just
Wake
falls
up
off.
call.
And yeah, it is. But it's almost like some teams plan for that, don't they? They don't want to win every game because then at the end you're fucked.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think like for me, it's been um, more about in a like isolated sort of like mindset that no one's going to give you what you want. No one's going to just serve things up on a platter for you. you have to go and you have to give it everything you have, but also don't expect to actually achieve everything that you set out to do. You just got to give it everything you have still. So it's more about that. It's like, you have a goal, you need to go fucking get it. You got to work hard for it, but don't expect it. Life doesn't work that way. You can't expect to. It's not just gonna present itself to you. You need to fucking go out and get it. And if you fall short, at least you know you fucking gave it everything. And that's probably what I learned the most from it. Because there was some periods there where like I was like, I want to like make it to the next like level up in teams. I want to go make state. I want to go do this. I want to go do that. And I tried. Like I went and I put it in the hustle, and it didn't come through a couple of times. But like I could sit and say, well, I worked my ass off, and I actually like went and did the work I needed to do. But I just wasn't. Yeah, just fell short because I probably wasn't good enough. But I can live with that. I can't live with like sitting back and just being like, oh, I didn't try and I couldn't be bothered, and that sort of thing.
I think so many people are afraid to fail. Like the best people at any sort of sport or any sort of task that they do, whether it's business, whether it's basketball, whether it's whatever, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to stuff up, and it's the moment that you realize, okay, cool, I stuffed up. I didn't do good enough. What can I do better, and then how can I get further from there? So no, that's really good, man. I really appreciate you sharing that. Thank you so much. You've gone into working as a strength and conditioning coach and started to do a lot of stuff around that area. How did that come about? Like, how did that interest sort of fall in your mind?
So I mean, I've always been into sport. Basketball is one of the sports, and then I love football. I love rugby as well. So it was like always in and around sports. And then when I finished high school, got into uni at UWS, Western Sydney represent, and then was studying exercise sports science there, and was kind of like wanting to move into nutrition. And then I didn't really like it, so then I decided to move to Melbourne, got into a Melbourne uni, and continued like doing exercise sports science there. And then just kind of fell into it. I was working at a gym, and I was like, okay, well, I'll go into personal training. I can make a bit more money there and do that. And then I sort of started to enjoy that part of it. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll try and push for a bit more like athletic development and sports performance coaching. I went and worked with like a rugby club in Melbourne, and then had like an internship with a pretty big like performance facility in Melbourne as well. And so then it just sort of started to shape like where I was, my path, I suppose. I was kind of a bit lost at the beginning, and then it kind of shaped the way forward for me. And then I just like fell in love with the like what you get out of it, I think a lot of people go into the industry that I'm in trying to chase money or trying to chase like a position or status, and I think it's not sustainable, and it's not a fun life to live if that's what you want to chase. This job, like this, what we do in this industry, is very fulfilling from seeing other people succeed in what they do. I think that's where I feel like I get my greatest success. And like I feel the best about myself is when I see people I train, people I coach, like get to wherever they want it to be, whether it's coming back from an injury, jumping higher, losing 10 kilos, whatever it is. So then when I started to figure that out, that was when I was like, okay, shit, like this is what gets me going. Like this is what fires me up.
That's wicked, man. I remember a little while back that I was scrolling through Instagram and just checking out a lot of your videos where you were developing a lot of younger players. And then I remember reaching out to you, and you were telling me about, you were doing programs and whatnot to help kids. And I remember even asking you questions about, injury advice and whatnot. Like, tell me about going down that path. I know that you mentioned you sort of fell into that strength and conditioning side of things, but then you had a bit more of a passion for this. Like, what was that experience like?
So it was great. It was amazing, mate. Like, honestly, I think with this as well, I should have mentioned before, I feel like your personality, you as a person, has to suit this style, this sort of like this job, this work. Probably like
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
going into something, being an accountant or a lawyer or whatever. Like you have to fit that mold of being of a person with that your personality traits. But yeah, I was so when I started to really like form that path, I was like in I was working in that rugby club. I was doing like individual stuff performance wise with different athletes and different sports. And I mean, I was always playing basketball. I was always in and around basketball in Melbourne. And I don't know if you played much in Melbourne, but it's a big scene. Like it's a
Very, very
big
big
scene
scene.
there.
Very, very big.
It's great. Yeah, it's amazing. Like
Yeah.
something that I will plug this here for people who haven't been to Melbourne, and it's getting bigger now. I think it's even in Perth, but there's a basketball tournament in Melbourne every year called the Paran Summer Jam.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And if anybody is listening and likes like street basketball in Australia, watch this and go to that event. It is the best street basketball tournament in Australia by far. There's not, you can't convince me otherwise. I don't care what you say. It is the best.
I agree.
But
I agree.
stuff like that is like, big in Melbourne, and the culture around basketball is huge. So I just was sitting in a position where I was kind of like, financially it was good and like making good money, but I was like, I want to get this feeling back where I'm like, training people that need it, and like I can get something, I can offer my service to some people that need it, right? So I just reached out to this charity called Helping Hoops, and they're a charity based in Melbourne, but they do stuff all over. And they use basketball as a vehicle to help underprivileged children.
That's mad.
So they use it to like teach like life lessons, as well as like provide some opportunities through like work, or even just improve fitness. Like there's a lot of things, but they use basketball as that vehicle, which is amazing. Like someone from like you and me, to hear that is great, because you think like you've played this sport your whole life and you've been around it for so long, and now the sport's being used to help people that are disadvantaged, I suppose, and yeah, it's like, how can you not like that? So I heard it. I was looking up at like researching a bit about it, and I was like, do you know what? I see that they do a bunch of stuff with kids, but like they don't do any S&C, they don't do any strength conditioning stuff, any like coach, like performance coaching. So I was like, maybe I'll just like hit them up, reach out, and see what's going on. So I sent him an email, and then literally like 2 hours later, the director emails me back and goes, "Oh yeah, I'm around like where you are working. Do you want to meet up for a coffee and have a chat?" I was like, okay. So literally went down in my work, like fitness first gear. I was like packing shit. I was like, oh my God, this is so fucking, I'm meeting this director of this charity. I think like I built it up as well. So like it's basketball, and like, I don't want to ruin this moment. And then, so I went and sat with this guy, and we just started like shooting shit, chatting. And then literally in about an hour and a half, we decided that he had a hole in his program where there was loads of kids that were doing this program, but they would get to the point where like 17 to 21, 22, that they weren't going to just come in and socially play basketball anymore. They were like looking for the next thing, but they couldn't pay for strength conditioning coaches. They couldn't pay for skills coaches. They couldn't pay to get out to the US to go, showcase their skills. So he was like, we have this, bracket of people that we want to try and help. And that was where I fit in, and it was perfect. So then we created that. On that day, we created this program called Helping Hoops Future, and Future still runs today, actually.
Wow.
And the program is for those kids who are like highly skilled, good athletes wanting to get to that next level. And so we offer them a strength conditioning session, as well as like 2 on-court sessions. So we had like a skills coach. I'm no skills coach. Not me, but
I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah. I'm the mindset guy. I'm the one who's going to come and tell you how to be a bully. That's what I do. And then, so that was how it started. And then, it was sort of like the ball just got rolling real quick. When we started, we had about 45 kids like rock up to the first session, and there was just me and one skills coach, and I was just like, shit, this is a lot. Like first go, like it was a bit messy. And then as the weeks went on, sort of like cleaned it up, and it got a bit better. I had to like get a couple of my friends to come help me out with the gym sessions, because you can imagine like in a gym with a bunch of kids, kids who've not lifted before, and basketball kids who are like ego driven, and
Yeah.
it was
Just asking to get
it was
hurt.
heavy. It was eyes everywhere, like it was intense. But you know what? Like that was probably in my career the most rewarding time and work that I did. I had we had what 45 kids in this first group, and I think like over 20 of them got into schools in the US, and that's like you know what I mean, like almost more than half
Oh
got
my
into
God.
schools in the US, and just like that's amazing. Whereas
Yeah.
before, like I said, they wouldn't have had access to the coaches in the US. They wouldn't have had access to like getting there, being able to train in a way that would position them to be prepared to go and play in the US. So
Yeah.
it was such an amazing program. I did it for 2-3 years, headed up the S&C part of it, and then when I moved here, it was like something that when I moved here, it was hard to part ways with, and I found it very difficult to let go. But it was for what it was at the time, it was amazing. Yeah, it was amazing.
Well, I think honestly, like, big ups to you for that, man, because the big reason why I started my YouTube channel initially was because I've been lucky to play with the people that I've played with and spend as much time on the court that I have. And growing up playing for a club that worked directly with big professional sporting clubs like the Sydney Kings, it's not uncommon to be affiliated with these premier training facilities. This knowledge is passed down. There's probably some poor kid in the inner west, Western Sydney, big ups Western Sydney, like we were talking about before, and they got no money. They don't have no knowledge. There's no resources. They probably don't even have a hoop. They probably got a milk crate that they've put onto a tree that they've had to work with. So that type of stuff is really big, and I think actions like that is a big reason why you start to see the game grow. We were talking a little bit before about how you didn't see too many players from Australia jump over into the NBA. And now it's become so much more of a thing. Like, I remember people used to ask me about what I thought of Andrew Gaze, and I'd be like, he's really, really good. Like, he's won an NBA championship, but he didn't get to play the whole finals. And then now you got guys, and they're actually playing in the finals. They're go-to players for clubs. So fantastic work, man. Fantastic work. What do you think is the big difference between, I think culture's a big thing, but what do you think is the big issue that creates the gap between Australia and the States in the form of basketball?
Well, I think from my perspective, it's hard to say from skills wise. I'm not like too well versed in that area. The only thing I will say with the skill stuff, just like from what I see on social media, which is where I guess most players would get a lot of their training content from, is there's a lot of people that claim to know a lot of things, and they're actually not a lot of professionals in the field. I feel like there's a lot of people that say we know all this and like do this and do that, and with this is actually quite a funny thing, but amongst like coaches in the industry, like strength and conditioning or like basketball coaches, I know we'll send each other stuff and be like, look at this guy, like what he's done, and this is shit. Like, why the fuck is he posting that? And then you got people writing, like commenting like, oh, that's so good, I'm going to try that. And you're like, oh God, like it's bad, So my message around the skill stuff would be just be careful, be wary of who you follow and what drills you take.
Yeah.
Is that coach going to be relevant in 2 years? Is that coach just like a good speaker, a good like presenter on the camera?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then maybe you need to drop that and like follow someone else, or like get in touch with a different coach. But in terms of strength and conditioning stuff, I feel like they're now it's getting much better, much better. In Melbourne, in Australia, in Sydney, in Melbourne, there's a group. I will plug this. Is one of my good friends, actually. He worked with me at Helping Hoops. Fucking great strength and conditioning coach. His name is Jimmy Mullins, for anyone that's curious in Melbourne. And he's got an academy called the 4 a.m. Academy. And I don't know why it's called 4 a.m. Academy. It's a weird name. He's told me, but I don't want to ruin it and say some shit. So better just like go and ask him. But anyway, he's got 4 a.m. Academy. and they train a lot of young basketball players and get them more powerful, stronger, improve their hops, get them faster, just build them so that they can perform better on the basketball court, right? So that stuff is getting bigger. In Sydney, you've got this place called Athletes Authority.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody knows who they are, but again, like another strength and conditioning place, like very, very good for helping out athletes. But they're a bit like far and few between. They're coming out and they're building up more and more. But in the US, it's next level. You know, there's these people fucking everywhere. And in the college system, you've got
proper,
great, amazing strength and conditioning coaches, like people that I thought I would go pay like hundreds and hundreds of dollars to go and sit in front of and listen to them speak. You know, so like that's the type of people that are coaching these kids or these university students. And Oz, we don't have that level yet. It's not there yet, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's getting there. It's getting, and if I was again to compare it to like here where I am now in London in the UK, like I thought Australia was still a far bit behind the US, and we are, but there's other places that are even further.
Yeah.
Here it's like it's a joke for basketball. So I think we have to be in Australia, we sometimes only look at like, you know, us in the US and like we compare just those two, but
very much,
there are other places, Europe, the UK, and we're doing well. I think, in my opinion, now looking at everything, we're doing quite well, and it's basketball like as a sport in the nation. I think is like solid at the minute, and I feel like it can only get better. There's a lot of people getting more involved with it. The sport's like constantly just growing more popularity, so I feel like it can only get better. But yeah, I think the gap is closing.
Yeah. I think when it comes to places like you were talking before about the prominence of basketball culture in Melbourne, and I think a lot of that's I've always thought that Melbourne is one of the, like Victoria as a state is probably one of the more superior states when it comes to basketball here in Australia. South Australia is really good as well. When I was a junior playing state, you'd play against these teams from Vic and you just get pumped. You just get worked because their facilities and their knowledge and their development was so much more ahead. And I always thought that part of it was maybe because of the culture around, like Aussie rules is a lot bigger over there and the sport directly translates. Whereas, with the UK, like, bro, I can't imagine anyone in the UK wanting to, like the same way that we have guys who dream of playing rugby league, they're dreaming of trying to play for Arsenal or Chelsea. They're not thinking of being the starting point guard for the Lakers, The
thing is, here, if we talk about here in the UK, it's just poor. Like we had a summer tournament here in Clapham. If anyone knows where Clapham is, actually it's full of Australians where I live. So fuck loads of Aussies. But in Clapham Common, they have 3 basketball courts that the NBA have like sponsored or done that have kitted out to make it like an NBA style basketball court, right?
Yeah.
Amazing hoops, like the actual like flooring is great for an outdoor court. Beautiful, but hardly getting used. They had this tournament out there last year and it just wasn't, it was kind of like, it was not big for people. There's like, I don't know, I think there's like 11 or 12 million people that live in London. Like, got to have better turnout than that. You know what I mean? Like, it just wasn't great. So, the sport here is just not big enough because it just has to compete with things like football. But also the weather doesn't allow for people to really get into it because it's just fucking cold and miserable here all the time. And after school, I can't imagine kids going to the basketball court putting up shots in like today, for example, it was like 1 degree this morning. So, you're not going to, so you need gloves for that shit. It's just a bit, it's not the best environment for people to like, for kids to go out and just like start, in the morning. That's where I used to train. I used to get up, take my ball, dribble right hand all the way to the court, and then get to the court and start doing my layups, start putting my shots up, and then go home, dribble right hand all the way home. I'm left-handed. That's why I did it.
Yeah.
And then get home, have a shower, and get ready for school. And that was what I did. But I could do that because it was fucking hot, and I could do that. I can't even get out of bed as an adult to go to work. Like, how am I going to do that to go play basketball?
Yeah, very
Yeah.
true. Very true. I think the other thing that I think about that stops a lot of people from progressing is these injuries that we cop in the game. Like every sport has their injury, right? Basketball, a lot of time, for at least from me in my experience, if it's not your knees, it's your ankles, it's your shoulders. It's like those three things they're copping it the most. What are some beneficial things that you feel that people could be putting into their workouts or their sort of daily ritual to try and make them a little bit better?
I think it's one with these questions. There's no like magic
There's no
answer.
magic pill.
You know, there
All good.
isn't. Yeah, there isn't, and there isn't like okay, do this one thing, and then that's going to be the key for you. No, like
Do this 5 minute ab exercise and you
yeah,
look amazing.
yeah, exactly, yeah. There's no pyramid scheme over here. It's not like that. So it's like what it is more like you have to put in the work, and the work isn't just on the court. That's what it is. It's like you have to see this as, if this is what you want to make a career in, if this is where you want to push yourself to like really give everything you got, you need to look at all of the aspects that make up that part of your work. So like, yes, playing the sport is important. That's a skill, playing the sport. But so is part of sport, is also included in running, having good fitness, being able to jump high, being able to run fast, being able to change direction quickly. All these things make up the sport that like you can't just improve by playing basketball. Those things get better outside off the court, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it is. It's like you're trying to figure out. And then the other part of it, again, we spoke about was the mental aspect. I think that is a big thing that like we miss. We always talk about like, yeah, you want to be a better shooter, better dribbler, jump higher, run faster, and that makes you a good basketball player. But that's just not true as well. Like if you don't have it up here, like you're not going to make it, right? Like that's important. So yeah, it's having a greater overview of the sport and like breaking it down into the different parts that you think you need to develop. Now, in terms of like how to be better physically from like where I sit,
yeah,
I think there needs to be a greater not understanding, but like greater bigger push for people to get in the weights room. We got a lot of kids, I call them movement morons, so that they have like incredible, and we saw it all the time when we train at Helping Hoops. We were, I would say maybe 85 to 90% of the children were like from Sudanese backgrounds, like African backgrounds.
Yep.
Other African country backgrounds, and unbelievable hops, unbelievable speed, like stuff that we didn't have to train. They just come out and be like explosive as shit. We're like, great, cool, great. Right, like show us how to do like a cut, or show us how to like accelerate, stop, decelerate, change direction, and they move like movement morons, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, like this is how you're going to get injured. So there can be a bit of like, you can see yourself as a super athletic player, or see other players and be like, oh, they're super athletic, they jump so high, he can dunk, he's 14, he's so quick. But actually, if they don't train, if they don't go and do the stuff in the weight room, if they don't go do the stuff off the court where they're trying to learn how to be in better positions, like how to decelerate, how to take load one side and then shift, that stuff without the ball, I'm talking about, nothing to do with the ball, just like being more aware of where your body is in space, right? That stuff, that's going to help you become a much better basketball player, way better at like lowering your risk of injury, and just being a better athlete as well. Like the other thing that gets like tossed to the side is, we always focus on basketball. I think like this is a problem in the sport as well. And if you look at other players that were very successful at the sport, Jordan, Kobe, Steve Nash, they all played different sports. Like Jordan was super athletic across different sports. Kobe, football was his second sport, was very good at that. Same with Steve Nash. I think even Luka Doncic, I think, is another one who's like a good footballer as well, where like they've not tried to like be perfect at both sports. What happens is they've learned the skills and like the movement and the positions of their body the body have had to learn the positions and movements of each sport. And they've been able to cross over those, from football to basketball, basketball to football, and it just helps them be better athletes. So my takeaway is like, don't just focus on like trying to be better on the court. That's one part of it. Yeah, that'll make you a better basketball player for sure. That's going to, but it's not going to make you the best basketball player.
Well, you're not going to be able to stay on the court. You're not going to be able to stay on the court if you cut and you don't know how to move properly, and then you end up hurting yourself. I've seen so many guys that were so gifted and athletic, but a change of direction changed their career. Like, it's so sad to see. Like, it's just because people don't know how to use their body. You were talking about Steve Nash. Steve Nash is one of my favorite players. And I think things like his vision and how he played, a lot of it does come down to the fact that he was playing football. He was looking up. He was so used to looking up that he can see things, and the game just sort of falls into his lap. And his body's used to moving and digging around in different ways that you're not used to. And if you get used to doing one action, your body gets used to it. So that's really important. I think that's a really good insight. That's a really, really good insight.
Everyone's had those people that they've seen in their basketball careers where like, and everyone knows these blokes that come up with the stories at the pub. They're just like, oh yeah, like when I was 16, I was so good. Then I did my ACL and I could have made it. And you're like, yeah, bro, good on you. You're like 120 kilos working at fucking KPMG. Calm down. But yeah, but yeah, it's true. Like that could change someone's career. It could.
Yeah.
Like even when you look at this show on Netflix at the minute, what's it called? Last Chance U. I don't know if anyone watches that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you see a lot of these people that come out of there like that have been injury ridden, and they like have a lot of promise, a lot of potential, but just injury ridden. And those injuries are just like, you're just not strong enough. You're just not moving properly for like your body shape or the way your body should be moving. And that's why you're getting injuries. It's not like you can't improve that by being a better shooter or being a better dribbler. Like that's not what's going to help you, bro.
Very true.
So, but yeah, so that's my message probably for people who are trying to like better their game.
So the last thing that I want to get into before I go into my wrap up section, and I'm really looking forward to asking you some of these questions in this wrap up section. They're quick fire. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I was talking before about how we're starting to see a lot of players get opportunities to go and play in, Div 1 NCAA schools. Like I know for me, when I was growing up, the thought of going to play college ball was like equal to me being Batman. Like they were in the same universe, right? And then now you're seeing so much more opportunities for players. What do you think is the biggest contributor to seeing success, besides things like obviously weather, like what we were talking about with the UK, with weather being able to go outside? Like what's the biggest gap that you think that we could be looking at globally for the game to get better?
Okay. The thing that I think, like, I'm going to tell you because you know what it's like when you were growing up, where that's right. That idea of like going to go play, like if I said to you, you're going to get a scholarship to go play for Baylor, you'd be like, what in the fuck? That is like unbelievable, right? Like that's unconceivable, that thought. Yeah. Okay. When I was back in Melbourne, I was coaching this kid, and at the time it was just a private, like 1-to-1. And he was trained with me 1 week. The next week came in and he was like, I got like offered a few like scholarships to go play at like this school. I'm like, bro, like how the fuck have you done that? Also, he was injured. He was injured at the time. So I was like, how's this kid got scholarships? He's fucking injured. And then I was like, what the fuck's going on here? And he's like, I've got like some old like tapes of me. And he showed me it, and it was like shitty quality as well. Like it was just like, his mum's filming like, go mate, like go do it, like that sort of thing, like yay. And I was like, bruh. And he goes, I sent it to this guy who's got some like networks with coaches in the US, and he's just teed it up, and it's cost me like $500. And I was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Are you sure you're not going to get like conned here?"
Yeah.
So I was a bit sketchy about it, right? Anyway, he does it all. Then he got a scholarship to go play for a Div 2 school. And I'm pretty sure they won their state championship or like their conference and like that. Yeah, he won like a title with them, right? And I was like, this is mad. So I said to him, send me your contacts details. I want this guy's details. But I've now got this contact, and I'm sure there's fuckloads of these blokes out there, right?
Yeah.
And he messages me. He's like, "Oh, do you have any basketball players for me to like videos I can send to other coaches?" Right now, this is one great thing about social media and the internet and like the way we can communicate. The ability for us to just send information to these coaches and to these like prospective schools that we want to get into is so easy. It's a joke. Like I told you, this guy got into with a fucking video of his mum filming him. Like, this is ridiculous,
Oh my
right?
God.
You imagine if you wouldn't even be able to, when you were a kid, you were just, there's no way you would have thought I have to go to the US, play in front of a bunch of coaches, and that's the way I'm going to get in. That's what you probably would have thought, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It doesn't work like that now. You can be here sitting on your ass on the couch, like banging out 2K, and just send some fucking videos of you playing. Next minute, you know, you got offers from the schools in the US, and that's literally like, it's just so quick and it's instantaneous. You just need to find the right people. So the gap for like, in particular in Oz, again, like I said, it's closing. We're getting there. And I think now that the US recognizes Australia as like a place that we're producing good basketball players. Not only that, we offer good development for basketball players because we have a program with I don't think it's an NBA program, but the college. What's that?
No, we do with
Future Stars. Is that what it's called?
No, but we've even got one with the NBA. It's called the NBA Global Academy.
Is that the one where they send like where LaMelo and stuff came to play in the NBL?
No. Like Josh Giddey was with the Global Academy. Who else? Tyrese Proctor, who is expected to go within the top 5, playing at Duke right now. Same sort of thing. So we definitely have that. I think a big part of that is like the Center of Excellence, like the AIS. To have that as a resource is definitely big. I remember when I was like 12 or 13, the club that I was playing for, we had this thing where there was like a coach who came and he was an affiliate with a prep school in the States. And we were basically playing against this traveling US team, this AAU team, right? And we did all right. I can't remember whether we won or not. I'm going to say we didn't. But after that, there was like a handful of us that got offered invitations to come and go over there, right? I was one of them. The cost to go over there was like $60K. And that's like, oh yeah, $60K for the first 6 months. Like, we'll take care of you. Like, you'll sleep somewhere and you'll go to school and whatnot. But it's not even college. It's just prep school. So it's things like that you go, yeah, for sure. Like the ability to gather information, the ability to send information, equally as powerful. That's really good. I never even thought about some dude that you could just ping on, Insta.
Mate,
like,
it's
hey,
crazy.
Bro, check out my highlights.
It's mental. Because they make money off it, I guess. Those people that like they're a third person. They just like will have these contacts with the coaches. Yeah, and I mean it's just like having a CV with like and a video as a part of your CV of showcasing your skills and highlights, right? Like that's all people want to see. Yeah, so I think like being able to utilize that is amazing. And I'm sure that a lot of kids now, like the opportunities for them to get overseas is so much easier. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it's doubled probably the percentage of kids that make it over to the US from Australia. I would not be surprised in the last like 15, 20 years, probably.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But yeah, so that and just like the fact as well that the whole sport is developing and getting better. Strength conditioning as a whole is just getting better and viewed more importantly now than it was back then. I don't know if you ever did any, we had like a
Barely.
strength and conditioning coach that like made us do push-ups and like squat jumps, and
Yeah.
it wasn't much, but like that was what we had. And I guess
Yeah.
now when you go into like a proper setup, if you go to like, I don't know, Melbourne Tigers, like the like rep team in Melbourne, they've got proper S&C coaches that are coaching their kids. It's different.
No, it's very, very different. Very, very different. All right, Nick, we're going to get into the wrap-up section. All right, now this here I'm calling the Fast Five. Now, the idea behind it is I just want rapid-fire answers, okay? Don't stress. I'm not asking you anything political or sensitive, all right? It's just fun, all right?
Okay.
First question. Who would be the perfect one-on-one game and why? You can play or you can watch two people play one-on-one. Who would you want to see?
Ooh, who would I want to see one-on-one? That's a good question. I guess, I mean, I'm going to say it just because everybody want to see it, but LeBron and MJ, surely that's what you want to see. You want to see that.
Yeah. I would want to say in their prime too. I've got a pretty good idea about who I think would win, but it would be pretty good to. It'd be pretty good to see. It'd be pretty good to see.
Yeah.
All right, your dream starting five, top five, dead or alive. Who are you starting your team with?
Contentious, but I'm going to move him out of position and play.
You can put anyone. You can start five centers if you want.
All right, Bol. No jokes. I'll play Luka Doncic at the one. I'm a big Doncic fan. I'm a big Doncic fan. At the two, Kobe.
Yeah, I like that.
At the three, LeBron.
Yeah.
At the four, I've got to have. It's between two, either Kevin Garnett or Tim Duncan.
Either or, you're going good, bro.
Yeah. And then at the five, I've got to get Shaq because he's easily the most physically dominant player ever played the game. Like, there's no one else like that.
Undeniable. That's a pretty good five. That's a pretty good five. I like.
I know I left out MJ. But I just wanted to show my basketball knowledge. You know what I mean? So
but look, let's be honest, right? If you have LeBron, let's sack LeBron for a sec, right? If you have Kobe and you have MJ play on the same team, you're an idiot because they're the same player. Like, yeah, I've got no problems with your five. Your five is spectacular, man. Don't worry. If you had an opportunity to sit and pick anyone's brain regarding the game, or in your case, if it was someone associated to the game that you could learn more about for strength and conditioning or just how the body works, who would you talk to and why?
There's this guy who I really, from like a coach's standpoint, in terms of like strength and conditioning, performance, he's a skills coach as well. His name's Paul Favre. His Insta handle is PJF Performance. He has a podcast as well. I'm sure a lot of like basketball nerds will like know who he is. Chris is like, yeah, I know this guy, dude. I'm a day one follower. So he's unbelievable, and he just loves the game. He loves the game. He's honest and true about everything. He doesn't do any bullshit stuff. He's not one of these guys that's like doing these skills things, like trying to make you, I don't know, like I just think there's a lot of dudes that are wasting guys' time out there doing an hour, 2 hours of like fucking one-on-one dribbling drills where like it's just not necessary. And he's just very on it, and I love his stuff. So probably with him, I'd love to sit and just chat with him. From like a player's perspective, I would love to sit with MJ because I think that he's goated. So obviously it'd be nice to sit with him and chat.
Some really good ones. That PJF guy, man, he does I've seen a whole bunch of his videos where he's doing plyo works with slant boards, and his backyard, he's got a court in the backyard, and that looks mad too.
Bro, that's not a backyard. That's the Disneyland of strength and conditioning gyms, bro. That is mad.
It looks so good. Who's the most underrated player?
Oh.
Can be of all time. Doesn't have to be current. Can be of all time.
I think I personally like the hustlers, the grinders. I think there's a lot of them. Marcus Smart, I feel like at the moment in the NBA is a massive underrated player. I think an underrated player is the ones who don't get the stats, but on the court they give you something every time they get on. That's what I think an underrated player is.
I agree.
So someone like a Marcus Smart for me is like he's a big dog. I really rate his hustle. I really like how he is.
Yeah.
That's all I got for you right now, mate. Sorry.
You don't have to change it. I love Marcus Smart. He's fantastic. All right, last question. And this one could turn some heads, all right? Your favorite basketball movie of all time?
It's got to be Space Jam. It's got to be Space Jam.
Yeah, brother.
Even when I thought about it, I nearly started crying because I actually love that movie so much.
Oh my God. I remember when we were kids, I got that, I can't remember if you were with me, but we went to a Sydney Kings game and they used to shoot like shirts and balls and stuff out of a cannon. And they had this thing and you'd shoot this like rubber ball. And if you caught the rubber ball, you'd get like the VHS of Space Jam. And me and my sister, we were watching the game and they shot the ball and dead set. I was like, oh, going for this ball. And that's how I got Space Jam. So I love that. Love that movie.
There's moments in that. One of the first scenes where he's like a kid in his backyard playing with his dad and it's just so good. It's just such a good film. I fucking love it. Unfortunately, they couldn't back it up with LeBron. I feel sorry for LeBron that it was a flop, but
it was a bit chat. But whatever. They had a crack. A for effort. Thank you so much, Nick, for jumping on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Plug anything you want. Plug your socials. Plug anything you like.
I will. So if you want to follow me, you can follow me at Coach Nick Garcia on Instagram. And I do train a lot of people online, so a lot of different athletes, different sports online. So if you're a basketball player wanting to improve your athletic ability, you want to get better on the court, you can hit me up and I can help you train you online. If you're in Oz, I'm here in London. If you're in the UK, actually hit me up and come see me in my gym here in London.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Until we meet again.
Thank you.
Take care, brother.
See ya.
All right. Peace.